Turning 21 was supposed to be the usual. Cake, a few texts from relatives I hadn't seen since preschool, and maybe my mom guilt-tripping me into smiling for a birthday photo I didn't want to take. Instead, it became the most surreal day of my life. It was a crisp fall morning in Cedar Hill, Ohio, and my grandma June called me over to her little greenhouse on Oakwood Street. Her porch still had wind chimes she'd hung up in the 90s, and her old beagle, Rufus, barked at me like he hadn't known me for 21 years. Inside, she had birthday waffles waiting. Not just any waffles. These were the kind with crispy edges, warm syrup pools, and even whipped cream stacked high like a wedding cake. She always made them when something big was about to happen. So my stomach twisted a little. I sat across from her, and she looked at me with that laser beam focus only grandmothers who've raised 5 kids and survived 2 husbands possess. "Noah," she said, sliding an envelope across the table like it was a spy mission. "This is for you." Now, I've received plenty of birthday cards over the years, usually filled with glitter, a note about being so grown up now, and $5 I was too embarrassed to admit I cared about. But this envelope? It was heavy. Inside was a certified check. I read the number 3 times. $150,000. I blinked. "Grandma, what is this?" She just smiled, sipping her coffee like she hadn't just detonated a financial bomb in my lap. "I told you years ago," she said, "when you made honor roll every semester and got into Wellington College on your own merit, that I'd help with grad school. You never asked for anything. You never even hinted. That's why you deserve this." I just stared at her. "June, this is someone's house down payment. Or one hell of a burrito," she quipped. I choked on my coffee. She got serious, though. "I wanted to give this to you now, so you can plan your future your way, not your parents' way. You hear me?" "Oh," I heard her, loud and clear. See, my parents, Daniel and Lisa Walker, were the king and queen of the appearance over everything cult. My mom's Instagram was curated like a travel blog, and my dad had been pretending to run a consulting business for 6 years while doing absolutely nothing except hitting golf balls and making passive-aggressive comments at family dinners. They always said they'd support me. Translation, they'd take credit for my achievements and occasionally offer to pay for something, before backing out and saying, "Well, we didn't expect it to cost that much." I walked out of Grandma's house in a daze, clutching that envelope like it was a newborn. It felt unreal. For once, someone had seen me, not for who they wanted me to be, but for who I was. All the 4 A.M. study grinds, all the skipped parties to hit deadlines, every odd job I took to make ends meet, it had all led to this. That night, I didn't even tell my parents. I sat on my bed in my tiny off-campus apartment and opened a blank Google Doc titled Future Plan. I was going to make it. Except, I should have known it was too good to last. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 7:16 a.m., a number I didn't recognize. I answered half asleep. "Noah, honey," my mom's voice chirped, a little too cheerful. "Grandma told us about the college money. Isn't she the sweetest? Of course, you'll be putting that into the family account so we can manage it for you, right?" I sat up. "Wait, what?" My dad chimed in from the background. "We just want to make sure it doesn't get wasted on, stupid college stuff, like philosophy degrees or avocado toast." I blinked. "Dad, I'm in a dual program for economics and law." "Exactly," he replied, as if he'd made a point. Mom giggled. "It's a lot of money, sweetheart. And you're still so young. You don't want to blow it without guidance." "Guidance," I repeated flatly. "Like the time you guided my savings into a failed herbal tea MLM?" Silence. "You're being ungrateful," my mom finally snapped. "You wouldn't even have met Grandma if it weren't for us." "Pretty sure that's not how genetics works," I mumbled. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Because that was just the beginning. When I say my parents moved fast, I don't mean quick trip to the bank fast. I mean predatory loan shark in a dive bar fast. By noon that same day, I got a Venmo request from my mom. $150,000. Memo, family tuition, reserve red heart. She even had the audacity to throw in a heart emoji, like she was charging me for brunch. I stared at the screen for a full minute, then took a screenshot, saved it in a folder labeled Evidence, and clicked decline so hard I think my phone vibrated out of spite. 5 minutes later, a text came in. "MOM, don't be dramatic. We're trying to help you." "Dad," seconds later, "let's handle this maturely. We'll talk at dinner." Talk? Sure. Just not the kind they were expecting. By dinner, I was back at their house, sitting across from them at a table that looked more like a magazine ad than a place people actually ate. My mom had lit candles. My dad had his businessman sweater on, the one he wore when pretending to take phone calls from clients. They had an agenda. Lisa poured wine like this was a toast. "We've been thinking," she said, swirling her glass like a villain in a soap opera. "And we decided the best use of Grandma's gift is to diversify it into some family ventures." "Oh, you decided that?" I asked. Dad nodded solemnly. "We were looking into real estate. You could technically own the house, but we'd manage it. Everyone wins." "Except me," I muttered. They both laughed like I'd told a joke. "Oh, Noah, you don't understand how taxes work," Mom said. "That kind of money comes with responsibility." Dad added, "And paperwork. IRS stuff. Wouldn't it be easier if we sheltered it under our umbrella?" "You know what's really fun? When your parents try to launder your college fund like it's mob money." I stayed calm, mostly because I wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went. "And if I say no?" They exchanged a look. It was that weird, wordless stare parents use when they're deciding who gets to be the bad cop. My mom set down her wine glass with a little too much flair. "Noah, don't be selfish. Your father and I made sacrifices to get you here." "This again. I worked at Dairy Depot 4 nights a week, Mom." "Yes, and we let you stay in our guest room that summer." The guest room that came with chores, curfews, and 7 a.m. wake-ups from my dad's blender protein shakes. I took a breath and leaned in. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to open my own account at a different bank. One you can't access. I'm going to talk to Grandma June and make sure she knows exactly what you're trying to do. And if you keep pushing, I'll go public." Dad stiffened. "What do you mean, public?" "I mean telling everyone at church, at the country club, and your bowling league about the time you borrowed $3,000 from my high school savings to invest in artisanal beard oil." Which, spoiler alert, failed. His face turned beet red. Mom's eyes narrowed like she was trying to Jedi mind trick me into obedience. "This isn't over," she snapped. "Agreed," I said. "It's just beginning." I stood, dropped my napkin on my plate like I was in a courtroom drama, and walked out the front door. That night, I called Grandma. She answered on the first ring. "They tried, didn't they?" "Yup," I said. "Thought so. I'm calling my attorney tomorrow. The check's already yours, but I want something in writing to keep their grubby paws off it." "Thanks, June." "And Noah?" "Yeah. If they try anything else, you let me know. I've been waiting for an excuse to raise hell." My grandmother, part matriarch, part nuclear warhead. The next morning, I was eating cereal and watching reruns of The Office when I got a notification from my bank app. Transaction declined. Attempted access denied for external party. I blinked. I hadn't even linked the check to that account yet, just opened it, which meant someone had already tried to move the money. I checked my email. Suspicious login attempt from unknown device, Cedar Hill, OH. I choked on my cereal. They really tried it. Not just guilt trips and wine-fueled manipulation. This was full-blown financial invasion. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unsurprisingly, it was my mom. "Noah, there must be some mistake. Your dad was just checking the balance to make sure everything transferred correctly. That's all." "Oh, that explains why the login attempt came from a device labeled Daniel's iPad, right?" Click. She hung up. These people. Later that day, I met with Grandma June and her lawyer, this grumpy, wonderful man named Murray Keller who looked like he'd been a defense attorney since dinosaurs roamed the earth. Murray slid the paperwork across the table and said in his gravelly voice, "This makes the funds legally untouchable. Your name, your control. Anyone tries to get funny with it, you send them to me. I like making people cry." Grandma beamed. "Told you he was fun." We signed it. Just like that, the money was locked in like Fort Knox. But apparently, that only made my parents escalate. That weekend, I was grabbing coffee at Bean Barn when my phone buzzed again. This time it was a group text. Walker family group chat. "Mom, after some serious reflection, we've decided it's only fair you share some of Grandma's gift with your brother Nathan." "Dad, it's a family fund. That includes siblings." "Nathan, yo, I need new rims and studio time." T-checks bro's smiling face with sunglasses. I nearly dropped my latte. Nathan, my older brother. The guy who failed out of community college twice, spent 2 years trying to become a SoundCloud rapper named Lil Cursed, and once sold our Xbox for beer money. He wanted a slice of the 150 grand pie? I typed 3 words back. Me. Get a job. He responded with a middle finger emoji. A few hours later, the real firestorm started. My dad posted a cryptic Facebook status. Some children forget where they come from once they smell a little money. Sad. One of his bowling buddies commented, "Ugh, hate that for you, Dan. Kids today have no loyalty." Then my Aunt Melissa piled on. "It's a shame when family turns on you over cash. June must be so disappointed." I was tagged. Repeatedly. My cousin Gracie sent me screenshots with a simple caption, "WTF is happening?" That night, I got a call from Nathan. I let it go to voicemail. Then a second call. Then 5 texts, including, "You owe us. Mom said you'd help. Don't make us do something you'll regret." That crossed a line. So, I did what any responsible 21-year-old with legal documents and a petty streak would do. I booked a meeting with a tax professional and started preparing everything. I wanted every dollar above board. I wanted a paper trail so thick even the IRS would get bored halfway through. Grandma proved. If they want to play dirty, we'll be squeaky clean. She also started documenting everything she overheard, dates, texts, even Facebook drama. "They think I'm just old and watching Jeopardy over here," she said. Meanwhile, I'm building a damn case file. That's when she dropped the bomb. "I'm changing my will." I blinked. "Wait, really? Oh, honey, I'm not going anywhere yet. But if this is how they act over money that's not even theirs, just imagine the circus when I'm gone." And that, folks, is when I realized my parents hadn't just declared war on me. They declared war on Grandma June. And she came armed. The weekend after my parents tried to Venmo extort me, guilt bomb me via Facebook, and guilt sell me on my SoundCloud brother's Dream, I got a surprise visitor. And by surprise, I mean I looked through the peephole and saw my dad breathing heavily on my doormat like an unpaid mall Santa. "Noah," he called, knocking again. "Let's just talk, man to man." I considered pretending I wasn't home, but curiosity won. I cracked the door open. "You drove all the way here to harass me in person?" He had the decency to look mildly ashamed. I was in the neighborhood. Dad, we live 2 cities apart." He cleared his throat. "Fine. I came because your mother's been crying all week. Your brother's hurt. The family's falling apart. Because I didn't hand over $150,000 like it was a pizza coupon?" He flinched. "I just think you're being rash," he muttered. "That kind of money, it changes people. It divides families." "No, people divide families," I shot back. "Money just reveals it." He tried the classic dad move, shove hands in pockets, sigh dramatically, and drop a fake wisdom bomb. "You'll understand when you're a parent." "Well, if I ever try to steal from my kid, I hope they shut me down just as hard," I said, and shut the door. I felt awful for about 5 seconds. Then I remembered the group chat texts, the Venmo request, the SoundCloud Rim Fund. That evening, I got dinner with Grandma June, and when I told her about the door ambush, she didn't miss a beat. "Next time he shows up, hit him with the garden hose. I'll consider it. Or call Murray. He once filed a restraining order over a guy stealing patio furniture." She was halfway through her second wine when her phone buzzed. She blinked, then laughed. "Oh my God. Noah, come here." She flipped her screen toward me. It was an email from the IRS. Apparently, a concerned family member had reported the $150,000 check as suspicious, possibly an undeclared taxable gift. The snitch had signed the email anonymous. Classic. Except, Grandma June had already filed everything with her accountant. The check was perfectly legal, exempt, and documented. But here's the twist. The IRS flagged something else. Not her gift. My dad's taxes. Something about inconsistent deductions, misreported income, and, wait for it, a questionable claim for a home office used for an unregistered business. She scrolled down and grinned. "They poked the wrong bear," she said. "Now the IRS is sniffing around them." I nearly choked on my Coke. "Should I feel bad?" I asked. "No," she replied instantly. The next few days were blissfully quiet. No texts. No calls. No SoundCloud threats. Then my cousin Gracie sent me a DM. "Gracie, bro. Your dad's having a meltdown in the church Facebook group." Screenshot attached. Daniel Walker. "It's sad when your own mother and son conspire against you with big government. What happened to loyalty?" Another comment underneath. Pastor Ron. "Daniel, perhaps take this to private prayer." I showed the screenshot to Grandma. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. "You want me to respond with a Bible verse?" she asked. "No, I think Ron covered it." Despite the chaos, something in me started to shift. The fear I'd carried all year, of disappointing my parents, of letting them down, of being this selfish one, started to burn off like fog in morning sun. They hadn't just let me down. They'd failed every test of decency, every chance to do right. And I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the guy who finally stopped pretending the emperor had clothes. I went home, filed the last of my financial paperwork, and applied to 2 grad schools. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because I wanted to build something real, something they could never touch. That night, I got one last voicemail from my dad. I saved it. "You'll regret this. One day you'll see how much we did for you." No, I thought. I already did. And that's why I walked away. You know those moments in movies where the music swells and the hero puts on their metaphorical armor? That was Grandma June. Except her armor was a velvet tracksuit, and instead of a sword, she had a freshly notarized binder titled, "Walker Family Financial Misconduct, Exhibit A through Fire." She invited me over for what she called the final curtain, and I showed up expecting tea and venting. Instead, I walked into a war room. Her living room table was covered with spreadsheets, transcripts, and screenshots. She had legal pads organized by year, color-coded Post-its, a slideshow looping on her TV labeled, "Daniel's Dubious Deductions," a timeline. I blinked. "Grandma, is this your revenge or the opening scene of a documentary?" She sipped her chamomile like it was bourbon. "Both." Then came the real showstopper. Murray, her bulldog of a lawyer, walked in with a legal filing. "Your parents filed a formal claim on the funds last week," he said. "Filed it under misappropriated family inheritance." Idiots. What does that mean? It means they're accusing you of stealing from them. I laughed, then stopped laughing. "Wait, is that serious?" "No," Murray said, flipping pages. "It's a desperate tantrum disguised as paperwork. We're countersuing. For defamation. And harassment. And, oh yeah, attempted financial fraud." Grandma June smiled, so sweetly you'd forget she just deployed a nuclear lawyer. "I gave birth to your father, but I will not raise him a second time," she said, calmly highlighting a section of the document like she was doing a crossword. I didn't know whether to cry or frame her quote on a mug. Over the next week, everything detonated. Quietly, elegantly. First came the certified letter to my parents. Grandma and Murray CC'd the entire family. Then came the withdrawal of all family financial support. No more mortgage top-offs, no more loan forgiveness, no more luxury cruise payments, just until tax season ends. I heard from Gracie that my dad tried to guilt-trip her mom into taking sides. He told Aunt Kay that I'd corrupted Grandma, she texted. Like I was some kind of money-hungry puppet master. "You mean, like a broke college Voldemort?" I replied. Then came the kicker. Grandma June updated her will. And she made it public. Not just within the family. No. She posted it on Facebook. With a caption, "Transparency matters. Let's be clear about legacy." It was a digital mic drop. My parents were not in it. Neither was Nathan. The estate, the house, the investments, it all went to education scholarships, charities, and a personal trust in my name for as long as he uses it to build, not destroy. Cue the collective gasp from the Cedar Hill community. Cue the uncles and aunts crawling out of the woodwork to either apologize or grovel. Some even called me brave. My parents? Silent. Then, just when I thought the storm was over, I got a letter in the mail. Not a text. Not an email. A real, old-fashioned, licked-the-envelope, handwritten letter. From my mom. I sat with it in my hands for a while. It smelled like her perfume, always lavender and anxiety. Finally, I opened it. It was 5 pages long, and it started strong. "Noah, we never meant to hurt you." Translation, "We absolutely meant to control you, but you fought back." The letter went on about sacrifice, stress, and how they only wanted what was best for me. She talked about Nathan's potential and how maybe the delivery was wrong, but the intention was love. Then came the real gem. If Grandma hadn't gotten involved, we could have worked this out as a family. Because, sure, the real villain here was the woman who paid for my future and then defended it like a tiger with a law degree. I didn't respond. Instead, I folded the letter, slid it into a folder with the rest of my records, and placed it under the label, "Proof I was right." Because sometimes, the closure you need isn't a tearful apology. It's knowing you saw the storm coming, stood your ground, and survived it. By the time fall rolled back around, Cedar Hill felt like a completely different town, Or maybe I was just seeing it without the fog of family guilt clinging to every street corner. The whispers about that mess with the Walkers died down. My parents, once the stars of small-town potlucks and HOA meetings, quietly stepped back into the background. Or maybe they just stopped showing up to avoid the sideways glances. Either way, I stopped looking over my shoulder. Grandma June, on the other hand, was thriving. She hosted brunches again. She rejoined her church book club. She even bought herself a little red convertible, just because I've always wanted one and didn't want to die wishing. And every Friday, we got coffee together. One crisp morning, I showed her my acceptance email from Wellington Law. Full ride, thanks to the $150,000 still sitting untouched in my education trust. She teared up. "I knew you'd do it," she said, squeezing my hand. "I just had to give you the runway." "You did more than that," I said. "You gave me the courage to fly without asking for permission." Cheesy? Yeah. True? Absolutely. Meanwhile, Nathan tried launching a Twitch channel and live-streamed himself getting into a shouting match with a random 12-year-old in Minecraft. It went viral for all the wrong reasons. Dad's consulting business somehow vanished. So did their leased SUV. The last time I heard from either of them was a passive-aggressive Christmas card with no return address. It said, "Hope you're enjoying that money. Don't forget who raised you." I sent one back. "Hope you're enjoying that audit. Don't forget who protected me." Petty? Sure. Cathartic? Deeply. Law school started in the spring. The first day, I walked in not as someone chasing validation, but as someone who'd already survived the worst kind of trial, being underestimated by your own blood. I wasn't angry anymore. Just clear. I worked. I studied. I built something of my own. Eventually, Grandma asked if I'd thought about what I wanted to do after graduation. Big firm? Corporate law. I shook my head. I want to work with kids who never got a Grandma June. Help them protect their futures before someone else tries to steal it. She wiped a tear and muttered, "Damn it, Noah. I just did my makeup." By the time I was halfway through law school, I set up a side project, a nonprofit that helped young adults understand their financial rights, how to protect inheritance, avoid family manipulation, and access resources no one teaches you about. I called it the June class. She tried to pretend she hated it. "Makes me sound like a holiday," she said. But I caught her wearing a hoodie with the logo 2 weeks later. At our launch event, she gave a little speech. "My grandson didn't become the man he is because of me," she said. "He became the man he is because I got out of his way and cheered him on instead of controlling him." She paused. "Also because I hired a lawyer who makes grown men cry." The room laughed. I did too. But later that night, as we cleaned up the folding chairs and unplugged the sound system, she looked at me and said, "I'm proud of you. Not because you proved me right, but because you proved you right." I never forgot that. I still have the check she gave me, well, a copy of it, framed above my desk. Not for the money, but for what it meant. A belief in my worth. No conditions. No manipulation. No strings. That $150,000 wasn't just for college. It was for freedom. And I used every cent of it to build a life they couldn't touch and couldn't tear down.